Welcome everybody to the third annual Future Homes Conference today. And on behalf of our partners for today, Homes England, Lloyds Banking Group and NHBC, good morning. It was great to hear from both Minister McCluskey and Minister Dixon this morning about the government's plans and ambitions to leave a legacy of better homes and communities that we can really be proud of. And I know that that is something that inspires all of us every day in our work. And it was really great to see the join-up between the two government departments, to have both ministers working closely around future home standards. I see that, and we were in the green room behind, and the two ministers really have a close working relationship and work very well together. It's great to see everyone here. Thank you very much for coming. It reminds me of, we have a Chief Exec's Council of right across the home builders, and in the first meeting, David Thomas, who's chair of the Future Homes Hub and CEO at Barratt Redrow, to break the ice, said, we're not going to build any homes today, because everyone was in the room. But we are going to get a step closer to solving some really important planetary problems. But actually, it's not a choice, it's not an either-or. The work that we do is really about how can we all work together to make sure that we can build more and better homes simultaneously. That is the challenge that exercises us and that we work on constantly. We collaborate week in, week out, but today is an important day for us to bring the wider community together, whether you're building homes, supplying, investing in the sector, making policy. We believe that working together is the best way to achieve our shared goals better and more efficiently. The issues that we deal collectively are about making the homes and communities we build today and the way we build sustainable and resilient in terms of carbon emissions, in terms of energy, in terms of nature, resources, and in terms of a changing climate, particularly thinking of issues like overheating that are quickly coming up the agenda. We've seen enormous change already across the sector and improvement in the last few years. If you consider all of the things that Evan listed, building reg changes in 2021 that vastly reduced carbon emissions, changes to ventilation, overheating, electric charge points, biodiversity net gain, the Homes for Nature initiative installing swift bricks and hedgehogs highways across development, SUDS coming through the Future Home Standard Part G. It's an enormous amount of change, and the sector is doing fantastically well. There are also some major challenges in how we approach this. I'm constantly incredibly proud of what we achieve together and the passion, drive and determination to build better homes. There's nothing I enjoy more about this job than going out to visit homes and developments and seeing the improvements and the quality of developments and hearing about how customers are looking forward to moving in. Let me start, especially for those less familiar, by taking stock of the work that Future Homes Hub is doing to bring the sectors together to solve these issues collaboratively. This is captured in the conference document, which you can access through your QR code. But I wanted just to take you through some of the main elements. And for the first year, we've printed that document in previous years. We wanted, in line with sustainability, to make it available online. So I hope that works for you. Firstly, we're looking to build the long-term framework for tackling these long-term issues. It includes the summary roadmap to bring together what we currently know about changes in policy and practice expected over the next 5 to 10 years. It's incredibly important for everyone working in the development sector to have that future visibility of what's coming down the track so that people can factor it into to land purchases, to R&D, to design, to changing design types, working with supply chains. So that long-term roadmap is incredibly important. And so part of our initial work is to bring together what that looks like and then to work with government to get greater visibility of what's to come down the line. We then dig into greater detail and are developing across the sector more detailed transition plans, particularly starting with net zero. And so earlier this year, we published the New Homes Sector Transition Plan for decarbonising the sector. The plan brings together knowledge from across the whole sector and supply chain to map out the long-term pathway and plan to decarbonise new homes. We're developing it with the government's Net Zero Council so that we can work with all of the other sectors on which we depend on to decarbonise, whether, for example, that's cement or concrete, bricks, or the vehicle and plant manufacturers. We all need to be working on the same page and working together. We're also working, and we had our first sort of big workshop last week with senior officials from across different parts of government on this plan and where we need government's help to help new homes decarbonise more efficiently. We also have set out a water-ready roadmap, and this has informed the government's environmental improvement plan and now the government's consultation on Part G. And this, if we look ahead, we can see big pressures on water. There's going to be, I think the Environment Agency predicts that there will be a gap of 6 megalitres per day by 2055 in terms of sort of supply demand. And so as a sector, we really need to think and work out how can we build more water efficiently. Water Ready Roadmap sets that out, and it's already beginning to inform government policy. We've also brought together environmental metrics. So for the first time, we have a common language to measure, communicate and track performance of new homes across carbon, energy, water, nature and waste, whether at home, development, company or sector level. And from next year, we will be able to track and communicate more robustly the performance of new homes as a whole. Alongside this, we're working with financial institutions on how they can align their requirements with the metrics to avoid duplication and collectively get more powerful information. We're also working with the valuers and surveyors to get the data they need to better reflect performance in valuations and in lending terms, for example, through affordability criteria. We then have 4 implementation boards covering the main areas of new policy that are coming through: Future Homes Standard, Biodiversity Net Gain, Water Smart Growth and Embodied Carbon, which the Minister mentioned. These implementation boards are co-chaired by senior government official responsible for each of the policies and a senior industry figure, and bring together all of the organisations that need to collaborate to make sure the policy is a success. For each of them, we have a dashboard setting out the key issues or problems we need to collectively solve to make sure the policy can be implemented smoothly and efficiently, supported by implementation groups to work through the solutions. So just to give you some illustrations on the Future Homes Standard is the first and perhaps the main so far implementation board, co-chaired with MHCLG, supported by implementation groups on all of the issues that we need to build low-carbon homes: heat pumps, PV, grid infrastructure, fabric, heat networks, overheating, building performance, the home energy model, and importantly, designing for and preparing the customer for new electric homes. The groups have done great work in helping to get the sector to a good place in preparing for the new standard, and we are now tantalisingly waiting for the final detail of the standard, and we heard a little bit about that earlier on. One of the critical pieces of work it's currently working on, and you'll see it in your document, is around what are the must-dos that developers must do to build low-carbon homes effectively. And what we found working across the sector is that actually it's quite different. Heat pumps perform in a different way, and the house as a system performs in a different way. And there are certain things that we've all got to do to make sure that that journey is smooth. So we've learnt from everyone doing pilots so far about the 7 things everyone needs to do, and what we're looking to do over the next months is really make sure that information gets out to everyone. Because it's almost everyone who's starting on this journey is finding there are things that that you need to work out, and we need to collectivise that knowledge and put it in a tin. So that's Future Homes Standard, Biodiversity Net Gain, co-chaired with DEFRA. The Hub has already provided some of the basic tools to support the sector. Biodiversity Net Gain process map, so that we can work. So there's a shared process between developers and and local authorities for how to get through the process of biodiversity net gain effectively, good practice guide to share information on across all parties working on biodiversity net gain, and a biodiversity unit finder to help those selling biodiversity units and buying biodiversity net gain units to connect. But there are clearly some teething problems, and so we've now formed a biodiversity net gain implementation board with a dashboard to pinpoint where the problems are and how we can work together to overcome them. Embodied carbon, which will be shared with the Department for Business and Trade. Water Smart Growth Board, again, that will be chaired with DEFRA, and we're just setting that up. And sustainable places. We don't yet have an implementation board structure, but we have started to work closely with officials on some of the key policy changes coming through, including revisions to the National Design Guidance, the National Model Design Code, to road test the changes and make sure design requirements are deliverable at scale. Also, long-term stewardship arrangements as part of the government's consultation on freehold estates, and starting to look at how the planning process can be accelerated for compliance schemes. So that's the key area of our work, working in partnership with government on new policy. Closer to the sharp end, facilitating sharing of knowledge and collaboration on solutions on the ground is extremely important to us. We have communities of practice on each of the main topics, guides and tools, webinars. We organise visits and to pilot and demonstrator sites that are pioneering low-carbon homes. And we also have liaison groups to work with, where there are specific communities that are distinct and need something else, need a tailored approach, particularly for SMEs, for taller buildings, for the later living sector, and shortly housing associations as well. As the Future Homes Standard nears, we are ramping up the support and sharing of information, especially for smaller developers, and we're working closely with MHCLG on this. Today, we launched the Future Homes Knowledge Centre, a new online platform to make guidance tools, case studies, technical solutions much more accessible. Over the next year, we're particularly keen to increase the case studies available, so please get in touch if you have good examples you'd like to share. Secondly, I'd also like to share that we're planning an additional, more detailed Future Homes Standard expert conference next year to provide the top to bottom detail needed to comply with the new standard, and we'll announce the date as soon as the standard is published. Before moving on to the day, I'd like to share a reflection with you from the 4 years we've been working through the Future Homes Hub so far, and it's this. When we work together, we succeed. In areas like the Future Homes Standard, where we've been able to get all of the relevant parties involved, who understand a particular problem, round the table with the government early on in a sustained way and with mutual commitment, we've collectively identified the problems and worked together to solve them. We've typically had a shared dashboard, no one to identify those issues and make sure that we're working through them systematically. No one person or organisation knows the answer, but collectively we've understood the problems and found the solutions. When you look at some of the systemic challenges facing new homes that are particularly acute for SMEs but are facing everyone building new homes, and that is captured in the recent statistics from Zoopla on viability, whether that's around land and planning, around nutrients regulation, around infrastructure, around workforce or supply chain issues, I believe, in effect, we need to be working on a big shared dashboard in partnership with all of the parts of government that's about creating the long-term conditions for sustainable growth of new homes. This doesn't mean solving all of the problems at once, but it means working in a sustained way to solve the most pressing challenges and creating the conditions we all need to build more and better homes and communities, and identifying early on where something is going to be a problem. This is a conversation I'd like to start with you and others as we consider the work of the Future Homes, how the work of the Future Homes Hub should evolve, and how we should work with other organisations and government, other organisations like HBF and others. So, turning to today, we're keen to get your input on some of the central issues. Today, like all days for us, is about collaboration. We'd like to hear your views, experience and ideas to inform the day and how we move forward as much as possible. So please do consider and share all of your ideas. The morning session is about infrastructure and how we get it all to connect, being able to knit together the right infrastructure at the right time, particularly energy, water and transport is fundamental to sustained high quality housing growth. And as infrastructure changes, the way we design schemes will also change. We want your views as part of the discussion. We will then break out into sessions covering the key policies where we have implementation boards. And a big thank you to the officials leading each of those areas for joining today. Future Homes Standard, Nature, Embodied Carbon and Water Smart Growth. We'll have some examples of what home builders are currently doing and consider what the key barriers and solutions are. The afternoon session is then about how in total we accelerate delivery of sustainable places. We're trying to make maximum use of Slido today to get your feedback. This is partly in navigating the rules about public servants speaking at events, so we're limited in what direct audience questions we can have. But we'll also think we'll get much greater weight of views with more people feeding in if we can hear from everyone on Slido. So please do access Slido through the QR code. Shortly, there will be a question coming up, which we want you to consider as we move into the next panel. So the question will be, what do you think are the most pressing infrastructure challenges to deliver sustainable growth in new homes? You'll then need to put your answers or ideas into Slido in the Q&A function, so slightly counterintuitive. Normally you'd be putting questions, but we want you to put your answers to this question. So do take, and then beyond, if someone else has made a similar point, you can upvote it, allowing Evan and the panel to see the key issues being raised. Beyond the formal sessions, you'll also have seen we have exhibitions with some of the most pioneering solutions and technologies to build sustainable homes. So do take full advantage of finding out what they do. And as Evan said, do visit the Whittle Room, which is getting less traffic at the moment. More widely, I hope you refresh connections and make some new ones, that you share your thoughts and ideas about what we can improve, how we can improve our industry, and that you take something away from today and enjoy it. I want to say special thanks to Evan. Evan will be donating his full fee to Crisis, the homelessness charity, which is both a cause very close, I think, to all of our hearts, and one that we are all working hard to eliminate. Actually, it's a special thanks to everyone, to our sponsors, to our exhibitors, to our speakers today, to the brilliant Future Homes Hub team. These events always involve a mind-boggling amount of organisation, and I'm grateful for everyone pulling together as ever to, I hope, make today a success. Finally, thank you all for the tireless, thoroughly rewarding work of helping to build great homes and communities. None of us has the answers, but collectively we do. If we work together, listening and sharing, we will succeed. Thank you.